let's take a look at your Caribbean report for tonight. 6 Caribbean nations are being closely watched this week as their votes could make a difference in whether or not the International Whaling Commission decides to ease its 1986 global ban on commercial whaling. The annual meeting of the International Whaling Commission opened Monday, aimed at coming up with a deal that could regulate whaling for another 10 years. Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines and Grenada are all members of the IWC. Some of these Caribbean states have been under pressure for their pro-whaling stance, with critics claiming their support is being bought out by the Japanese. However, St. Lucia's Agriculture and Fisheries Minister Ezekiel Joseph says despite the criticism, his country maintains its support of what he calls a sustainable use of whaling. He says their position is not linked to the financial support from Japan, which is one of the countries pressing for the resumption of commercial hunting. The Justice Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Herbert Volney, says he will be introducing new legislation to speed up criminal trials. Minister Volney told BBC Caribbean that lengthy cases are partly to blame for the country's high crime rate, as some criminals who are before the courts end up committing other crimes before they're finally convicted. He said some criminal trials last between 2 and 5 years, while some have been known to drag on for as long as 10 years. Some 250 people have been murdered in Trinidad so far this year. 6 of them were killed over this past weekend alone. Minister Volney, a former High Courts judge who resigned in late April to contest the 24th May general election, says offenses should no longer be taken to the magistrate's court, but directly to the High Court. And in Anguilla, Chief Minister Herbert Hughes presented a revised budget of the House of Assembly on Monday, which included a range of new taxes to stem the British territory's cash flow problem. The former UK government refused to pass an earlier budget approved in the House of Assembly at the end of April. However, in a recent letter to Chief Minister Hughes, the new minister responsible for overseas territories, Henry Billingham, indicated that he was prepared to authorize new borrowing of up to 50 million EC this year. Speaking in Parliament on Monday, Chief Minister Hughes says as part of his financial package, his government has agreed to increase the customs surcharge from 1% to 3% as a temporary measure to be revoked once the island's financial situation improves. He also announced that the implementation of a new 5% sustainability payroll levy, the freezing of increments of public servants effective January next year, and the marginal increase in property taxes, among other tax rises. Anguilla's national debt is said to be in excess of 200 million EC. And that's your Caribbean report for tonight. Earlier this week, the Virgin Islands National Guard held a ceremony at Government House as a promotion was rewarded to Edward B. Richards, who became colonel. Let's take a look.
When you serve in the military, it's not an individual thing. It's about total team effort. You have to help others. You have to help others grow. And the only way you're going to grow is to help those below you grow. And there's a saying, if you cannot lead, or if you want to take on additional duties, you say generously, you ask a person to do an early retirement, right, Colonel Rowan? He hasn't retired as yet, but the thing is, you look for leadership in the military. And one thing you have to keep in mind when you're serving in the military, regardless, you don't have to be a colonel, a general, or a captain. But once you're the senior person present, it is your duty, it is your responsibility to make decisions.
Congratulations, Colonel Edward B. Richards. And when we come back from this break, Melody Rames has a message about summer camps.